As I said, you have two New York Times best-selling books. The one most people, I'm sure, are familiar with is Israel, A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth. So today, as we sit here, in May of 2025, what is it that is still so misunderstood?
How much time do we have?
Is
Is the answer.
Basically.
Is the answer to that. So it's a great question, and that's the reason I named my first book, A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth, because I wanted this to be a conversation. Because is Israel the most misunderstood country on earth? No. Do you all know the governance system of Denmark? No, nobody does. But the thing about that I wanted to point out is that Israel is the country that people know nothing about, yet that they're obsessing over it in a very disproportionate way. And that was something that I was able to identify when I moved to America as an actress, a producer, a writer. I was Israeli, and I started coming to America and talking to people, and I'm like, wow, you have no idea what Israel is, right? But you're very opinionated about it, which is a very interesting concept. And that was why I was able to identify this years ago as this extra juge, which isn't political, and it's not about policies, and it's not about politicians, it's about good old anti-Semitism, which we're going to get to later on. So there are a lot of things that are misunderstood about Israel. You can talk about the fact that people don't understand that the Jews have originated from, Judea. The Jews are indigenous to the state of Israel. They don't understand that Israel is literally a refugee state that was decolonized from Great Britain. So not only it's not a colonialist state, it was decolonized from England. They don't understand how liberal and progressive it is. They don't understand that there are 21% Arab, Israeli, Palestinian citizens that have equal rights within Israel. If you tell them that they don't understand that there's, again, I don't want to be offensive, but they don't understand that there's never been a Palestine. Not that there shouldn't be, but there just never has been. And when you say this to some certain people in the population, their mind just goes, like they don't even know how to process that, right? They don't understand the most basic stuff about Israel that is more true to the younger generation that get their information on social media, on TikTok, and worse. So a lot of things that people don't understand about Israel as a country, as I'm sure a lot of you know and have been frustrated by over and over again, which is why I wrote my first book, because I'm like, it's not really a book, it's an ammunition box. So just take it and use it, which a lot of people do, and it's great. But I think to this conversation with us, all of us that are, you're well versed in all of that, I think one of the most important things that people don't understand is that what's happening now is not Israel's problem. This is not Israel's problem. It's not the problem of the Jews. It's not even just the problem of the Middle East. What's happening right now is nothing short of a cultural conflict that if we don't wake up in the West to understand that that is what's happening, we're going to be screwed, and not too far down the line. So here's the thing. Israel is on the front line of a worldwide fight, right? It's a fight between liberal values, whether liberal democracies or whatever it is that we hold dear, things that we see as self-evident, human rights, women's rights, everything that the water we swim in, right? To us, it's very obvious that I'm equal to you. Like, where is the question there, right? When I moved here as a progressive Israeli, I was very surprised and disheartened to see that a lot of Americans don't understand the culture in the Middle East. And they superimpose what it is that they think of American culture into the Middle East, thinking that it's the same. And to an Israeli, right? And again, I'm going to say things here that I don't necessarily say out all the time in the open, but I feel like in this room, and I know it's broadcast, so it's whatever. We can handle it. So even for a very progressive Israeli, right? My family's from a kibbutz, like Israeli Air Force, and so on and so forth. If you're Israelis, you know what that means. It was very clear to me that some cultures don't just want the same things that we do. And that's something that's very difficult for progressive Americans to understand, okay? So knowing what the Middle East is, I understood that there's a bigger problem here, and that problem is called jihadism. That problem means that there are some mothers, okay, that are happy if their child goes and kills Noah Argamani's friends at a party. It's a good thing. It's a celebratory thing. And if their son gets killed doing that, that's a great thing to celebrate. That is a realization that we need to understand this in America, okay? We need to understand that that is the kind of culture that we're dealing with. And it's not a culture that can be appeased by land or by any, they don't want, there's no two-state solution conversation happening around that culture. There is a Sharia law conversation that's happening around that culture that says that if a woman was raped, she needs to bring 3 male witnesses to prove that she was raped, and if she can, then she's the adulterer and she's going to get stoned, but she can also redeem herself by marrying her rapist. That's the kind of culture that we're dealing with. Now, here's the thing. I refuse to partake in people that are gaslighting you, saying that you're Islamophobic if you say that. I refuse. And I'll tell you why. Because the Middle East understands this better. You know who understands what I'm saying right now? Saudis, exactly. The Jordanians. Any country in the Middle East that outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, that outlawed Al Jazeera to some extent, that understands that that culture is dangerous for them too. And there are a lot of countries in the Middle East that understand this. So, and that particular culture is also not interested in Israel. They're interested in Belfast and in Los Angeles and anywhere and everywhere. That's the mindset. So when you talk about what's misunderstood about Israel, yeah, obviously people don't understand anything about Israel, right? We know this. But if you zoom out of it, the bigger problem here is that we have not communicated properly to the masses that this is their problem too. And by doing that, we're leaving the progressives and the women and the LGBTQ plus community of the Arab world in the Middle East, we're leaving them out and hanging them out to dry. Okay? So that is the one thing that I want people to really get, and it's something that we need to take on as a educational, like super important thing to educate the public. There is an entire region that needs to be transformed. It needs to be transformed from the inside out. And sadly, right now, what we're seeing is that that particular culture has more fans and supporters on college campuses in America than it does in the Middle East. And that is something that is on each and every one of us.
So,
thank you.